Hey.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the live stream of consciousness. I am your host, Jesse Blaze Snider, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Michael Zinn.
That's me.
How you doing there, Michael? What's been going on in your life?
I'm good. You know what? I gotta before we get some feedback. I'm gonna do this. Wish, because I know our loyal viewers will be like, they're on the wrong side. What's happening? I'm fucking awesome, man, and it's been a phenomenal week, and life has continued to go the way I feel like I'm trying to steer it. So I'm feeling good.
Well, that's
Jesse going for the sleeveless look and fine.
I'm in my tank tops. It's been very
showing his tattoos off.
Thank you. I like my tattoos. They're all very meaningful to me. Yes, I am. How's it going, everybody out there? Welcome to the live stream of consciousness brought to you by the network. We're excited that our matron saint is doing better, Nancy. She's gearing up to dig back into the network after some health difficulties, and we're excited about that. A lot of health difficulties are going around. My mother and father, who both got the vaccine, were taken out by COVID again. My dad, it was a light thing for him, but my mom,
wow,
it's been kind of a thing. And I'm sure she wouldn't want me getting into it too much, but
no. Personal, you're fighting HEPA or whatever it is.
Yeah, I mean
but that's. I'm sorry. She's not feeling good.
Yeah, and I mean my friend who also had the vaccine, she's much younger than my mother. She had a heart attack a week.
No.
I think a week or two after she got the vaccine, and it's so interesting to me how little reporting of the actual practical things that I am witnessing in my existence.
Wow.
I should say I knew a dozen
people were getting the vaccine and had problems.
I knew a dozen people last month who had COVID.
Wow.
10 of them had the vaccine. 2 of them didn't.
Wow.
And that's and then internationally, and I just feel like sort of like it's a responsibility to say this to those who who listen and I care about. There is so much being reported about the vaccines not being safe, and I don't know enough actually to even say is there any difference between what they're getting and what we're getting. But I do see information coming from overseas. I mean, I watched something that was translated, and I have an understanding of why maybe people are having the reactions to them they are. But it's worth investigating yourself what other people are saying, just because practical experience is saying that there's a decent amount of powerful after effects seeming to.
Right. I certainly don't want to. This is not the show that we wanted to do.
It's the reality of.
But no, you're right. It is the reality of what's going on. It is a very serious issue. I'm having some very serious discussions, but my thoughts, and I feel pretty strongly about it. It is that everybody's different, and just the idea that these sides are happening, and that if you are unvaccinated, you're them.
It's so terrible, and there are so many reasons that somebody might not have a vaccination right now.
Exactly.
I'm trying to get pregnant.
There's no compassion. It's just really horrible to see the other side.
I've had adverse reactions to other vaccinations.
Right.
There are so many different possibilities.
Courtney.
And this notion, when somebody says to you, "Hey, this is still in the trial stages. It's not approved by the FDA. I want to wait."
Right.
That's a fair.
That's a gut instinct, I would say. Yeah.
I've kind of said, up until to the moment that, I would get it if I needed to get it at whatever point that I did.
For travel and work and stuff,
But
right?
I would sort of put off getting it until it had a
Right.
little bit of time,
Right.
because that's a
Well,
reasonable thing.
I
And at
had,
the meanwhile,
yeah.
I everybody in my family, I should say my parents, and I was around them all. They all got sick. And
Mhm.
I didn't get sick, and I stayed away from them, and I got tested immediately, and I
Mhm.
kept my distance, and I
Kept your
didn't.
immune system strong.
And
Take
I had
vitamin
gotten
D.
it, I think, on whatever level with my children. They had gotten sick a year
Mhm.
ago. My son was very sad, and I literally just went, "I don't care. I'll take a week off of work, whatever. I'm going to, like, sleep with him." And I went to sleep with him while he was sick.
Mhm.
And, people are questioning natural immunity.
Mhm.
I don't understand. We didn't
Right.
used to
Yeah.
question natural immunity, and now all of a sudden everybody's like,
I haven't gotten a flu vaccine in many, many years. I
"Yeah,
haven't gotten the flu in
yeah."
many years. We have Ninja Kitty Pop, and she got the Moderna, and we got Taylor saying she got the Pfizer and very little side effects, and that's great. I think it's
It's
great.
okay with you guys, and I hope it continues to be the thing.
Agreed.
I think, everybody has to be open to a reasonable notion about how everybody, and especially,
Yeah.
of course, it's so silly to have to say this, but the fundamental notion of the vaccine is that you're getting it to protect yourself.
Right. Right.
Like, why are you, like,
Well, I had an interesting conversation the other day. I had a guy who was a biochem over, and he said that he had actually been working closely with the vaccine and what was going on, and and he was vaccinated, was totally open to having a discussion and telling me what he knows, because I was curious, and he wasn't making any judgments about getting vaccinated or not. But what he did say was that if you haven't been vaccinated, at this point you held out, let's say, because you're trying to make it, you're probably better off because of this variant. The old vaccine, initial vaccine, isn't going to necessarily work against the variant. So people who already are vaccinated are going to need to get a booster because of the variant, and
And when I hear that, it
you're
makes
better off.
for my parents, and for
Right,
the
right,
friends who have
right,
gotten the vaccine, because
right.
you go, well, what the hell, they were trying to avoid this thing, and now, like, they have no defense against this other thing, and and they've already gone through the process, and most of the people that I know who got it got really sick when they got it. Like, their initial reaction to it was real sick.
But they got
My
mostly over it. But I mean, obviously, a heart attack
girlfriend
is more than.
her ass got kicked, and
Yeah, of course. But a heart attack is more than getting
but
sick.
I've never had an adverse reaction to any of the vaccines that I've gotten before. So
Right.
actually hearing just consistently almost everybody saying that they got the vaccine and like they felt sick and like crap for a few days, that alarms me, because I've
It makes me
literally
twice
never
for
had that
sure.
reaction to any vaccine before.
Right.
So
Right. For sure.
it's an interesting time, and everybody pray for my mommy, and
Yeah.
and hope
Definitely.
that on whatever level she did the right thing for herself, and that she's these side effects from COVID or whatever it may be is will be not long lived. But yeah, it's a bummer. It's just a bummer when your family is being affected by these things.
Right. Right. Ninja is saying there's something wrong with my audio. I don't have my headphones here. I'm wondering what it is. You hear
Oh,
me? You hear me?
I'm gonna ask you. You kind of sound like the Coca-Cola man. I wasn't sure if it was just on my side of things.
The Coca-Cola man.
Yeah, you're like
Oh, I don't know what's going on. Hold on a second. Let's. I don't hear that on my headphones. I'd have to go grab them in the other room. But
You just said I don't hear that, and I'm gonna have to go grab my headphone in the other room.
so there's a lot of echo. You a lot of echo.
I guess, but it's more like
Let's take a look at my audio settings here. Yeti. Hello.
our projection.
It
And
looks all right.
apologize if anybody feels at all triggered by the conversation. I'm trying to have it as politely as I can. My parents have it. So I mean, like, I'm very much a middleman in it. I'm just really upset that my mother should have such a negative reaction to something that's supposed to be helping her, and to know that
Right.
I haven't had it yet because like I said, I was kind of just waiting, figure it'll be adjusted over time and things, whatever else. And I didn't have like a reason where I needed to get it. So much of my things I do remotely, and I work with, very
Right.
small, whatever else. Like I wear a mask at one of my jobs, whatever.
Right.
Like so I was just like, I'm gonna wait until the time's right. And when they did it, I had a little bit of apprehension, like it's a little early, but I didn't want to argue with them. My parents felt really strong about it, and I was like, it's not my opinion.
Right. Right.
What
Right.
you guys want to do is cool with me.
What's up, Ange?
Hey, sweetie. But I was just like, this isn't like why this isn't right. It's not supposed to be like this.
Jesse,
I should be the one with COVID. She shouldn't have COVID. She shouldn't have anything. She should be
Right,
fine.
right.
I should be the one who was an idiot and didn't get the shot fast enough and got sick. And that's not what's happened here. And that just really alarms me.
Right. No, I'm with you, and I totally feel you. And he's got their energy for Suzette going out. So
thank you. Like seriously, I don't want to get into detail, but it's just an absurdity. What they're saying is wrong with my mother, because she's just the healthiest person I know. Like legit.
Right.
Right. So it's all very just strange to me, and but I know she'll be fine. But like, I don't know. Ever since my best friend died and my ex-wife was hospitalized before I asked her to marry me, like I've been like a little. I don't like it when the people I love are hurt or sick, or my mom was thinking about going to the hospital, and because her heart was bothering her. Like it's just all a little bit too much for me.
Oh, I'm sorry, man.
Yeah.
I can feel it. I feel it right now. I feel you're stressing a little bit. So
yeah, and I understand too. Like she was like legit. Like I don't feel like myself. Like she's and it's been that time. But yeah. But life's good otherwise. I sent my babies back. It's been a little empty at the house, but I've been working on my really cool Ghost Riders pitch that I'm doing.
Yeah, telling me.
For my buddy who's a big artist at Marvel, like I'm basically doing it for him, and then we'll pass it through to them. I'm like, I should be kind of wrapped up with it, but I got to the end of it just a little bit before the show, and I literally just got to a part where I was like, but why? How does that happen? And I just like kind of wrote something relatively like silly to sum it up. I was like, I'm not sending this to him. Like, and then at the end,
right. So it's not quite done, but you have a little to tie.
I know, but like some of it's so funny. Like when it's actually sort of high level writing, to some degree, where you understand that certain aspects of what you're doing aren't really super important. It's just sort of like you need the mechanism that that everything just becomes what I really want to do here is say this. How do I say this? Why doesn't that happen? Well, that doesn't happen because of a reason I'm gonna have to figure out so that I can say this.
Right.
You want like you have like your okay, I see, and this ending like this that says like a nice thing, and then I could get through it. But then the in between, like sort of like the I got a bad guy and I got a thing, and he's gonna show up and but why?
Well, it sounded you had a lot more than that. You.
No, I have everything.
I mean, like, you're almost there. I'm excited, man. Like, cool is that? Like to have a whole series of Ghost Rider issues out. That's amazing.
It's so cool. Well, I mean, if we get approved and stuff,
well, you got to pitch it, yeah,
or the court or whatever. But I really I love writing these pitches. It's fun. I used to get my hopes up about them so much. I'm going to try to be neutral about this one. But it's been really fun bringing some spirituality to the Ghost Rider. Kind of a cool thing, and we were talking about different things to talk about today, and sort of fiction and spirituality, and finding some of that in that, and getting into a conversation about this, I think is really cool and fun. And if we start the conversation with a couple things that I think are pretty relevant for me right now, just in my mind, I think it'll open the conversation up to some of the things, which that is Ghost Rider that I'm writing, and the spiritual aspect I'm trying to bring into it, and the show Twin Peaks. And I love Twin Peaks. I don't know if anybody guys are Twin Peaks fans.
I was Twin Peaks. That was great.
I've only just become a fan of it. My girlfriend Julie was, I guess, into it when she was younger. Had watched some, but her family didn't really get into it, and she's been meaning to like go back around and like watch the new season and remind herself the first few seasons, our first couple seasons, and we watched it together, and it's been so much fun because it's such a great show.
Love it,
and it kind of ties in with some of the things that I'm playing with in Ghost Rider, whether I saw the parallels or not. You know, the concept of the Ghost Rider was always sort of an interesting enigma when it first arrived, because Johnny Blaze sells his soul to save his father. One, you sold your soul to do a good deed. Usually people pray for that. You know, like it's sort of an interesting thing. Like he sold his soul to do a good deed. He's an interesting guy here. He's like, I'm not going to God, I'm going to the Satan, which is very odd to kind of me. And then he becomes this spirit of vengeance because he makes a deal with the devil, and devil curses him to go around hunting bad guys and stopping them and tormenting them. So it was a real kind of paradoxical idea. Like, wait, Satan wants you to save people? Like, I don't get it. So then somewhere along the way, they added in the concept that, well, he was like essentially an archangel. This, this angel of vengeance.
right?
And that was cool because it went in the direction of sort of like explaining this thing. So, the situation that I started looking at was, well, what's really going on here, right? Because like, if we're looking at this spiritually, and we're talking about heaven and hell, and I always have such a hard time going into, or initially I've had going into these hell-based stories. Like I also wrote Evil Ernie for Chaos Comp.
Oh, right, yeah.
And I had to come up with a lot of hell sort of things, and I very much did not want to show hell. Didn't want to show a bunch of fire and brimstone. There's so many things about like hell that I don't like. I don't care for how it's done. And like as a concept, to me, hell is just an idea. Hell is just a bad idea. I've always believed that hell didn't exist except for in the minds of the people who held it. And and as I became a spiritualist, I found that what I believed as a atheist still held true, about hell, that it was basically just a bad idea. But if you believe and buy into the bad idea, then you could go there. If you believe and buy into the bad idea, then you could make a deal with a devil or a demon. And I've come to understand and believe through a lot of experiences that, there are elemental forces, sometimes bad ones, that propel us forward to kind of not be our best selves when we open ourselves up to the spirits through alcohol or just through passion or whatever it might be.
Right.
And there are also, positive, sort of elemental energetic spirits that are governing our reality. So you're looking at a situation where these demons could be viewed as negative energy, negative elementals, negative ideas that are predating upon silly humans who don't realize that hell is an idea, and that the only thing that they owe to the other side is karma for how they've behaved. And the spirit of vengeance goes around, and he actually has the penance stare where he stares at you and he makes you experience all of the terrible things that you've done to other people in your life.
With gaze.
Yeah, and it's like this debilitating, put you in a coma kind of thing,
Right.
And that notion of experiencing your karma on Earth, suffering now, as opposed to setting up a plan for yourself, like a spiritual book, might teach you that, you're gonna make a plan with the divine to go back and try to make things right and have an opportunity to have these same situations come up again, but this time do it differently. And that's essentially, the way things are going. So now when we add in this hell element, it becomes this veil of I'm going to be the middleman between you and salvation. Your karma, I'm going to get intertwined in it. So essentially, the concept that I'm working on in the Ghost Rider right now is that the Ghost Rider is like a pyramid scheme. Zarathos, the demon, the only way he's going to get into heaven is if he gets rid of all this terrible karma that he has, and he subjugates these people. He's like, all right, you go out, you be spirits of vengeance, and I'll earn my way back into heaven slowly but surely, by virtue of your
demonic pyramid scheme.
Yeah, and now so I almost said Godzilla. So now I got Ghost Rider doing essentially the same thing, where now he's the middleman for the other Ghost Riders in this bit. So it's very interesting, working with the concept of like these concepts here, and in Twin Peaks, for those of you who watch the show but never did a lot of deep thinking into it or never watched anybody break it down, it is a meta piece of fiction like you would not believe. At the same time, and the reason why I didn't initially recognize how meta it was, because the meta-ness parallels reality, real spiritual teaching and understanding that I know, in such a way that I thought that was what he was trying to teach. Ultimately, I was like, "There's so much." I'm like, I guess he was just like. Then when I really started to see it through some of the other people's eyes, how they were setting it up, it is incredible. The work of metafiction that it is, and I highly recommend it. And I still think it would be actually really enjoyable to watch it, hearing a couple things that I'm going to say about it, but we're trying not to like spoil details. But essentially, it was a response. He was a filmmaker, and it was a response to him. I'm going to make TV, right? What do I bring to TV, and what do I see when I look at TV? And what he saw when he looked at TV spiritually was that there was this terrible sort of like Wendigo, if you understand the metaphor, which was like a cannibal. The Wendigo was created when it ate the flesh of other human beings, and there was this terrible thing where there was all this disposable murder. People were dying, and we didn't know about their moms, or their dads, or their family, or their loved ones, because we had one episode to wrap up the thing, and then we were on to the next episode. It was all about the cops and their lives and things. It wasn't this deep emotional journey of what death really is. And basically, he felt that death and life and death needed to be balanced, and that he didn't see the balance in television, and he wanted to inject balance in television using this feature. But way more than that, he uses the character of Bob, if you remember, who is the entity, the evil entity that is possessing the people of Twin Peaks, to be a representative of the evil that people were allowing to possess them when they were watching these shows, and this casual violence that wasn't tempered with the wisdom of the hurt and the loss and the consequences of what these things really meant.
Right.
It's very majorly, and like I'll try not to say too much more than that, detail wise, but it very majorly sort of focuses on our attention being the most important part of the show. What do we care about viewers? And trying to get us to care about the other thing, trying to sort of transform the audience into a more thoughtful and balanced individual. And I knew immediately when I was watching him that one of the great things that he was doing just very confidently was using universal law, spiritual law, to polarize so much of the things that he was displaying on screen. In the season that they just did called The Return, one of the best aspects of it, there are some drawbacks to Twin Peaks. I will warn you, some of it is a little slow and a little bizarre. It is, but if you're willing to give it its due, it is.
What is representative of that? The soundtrack. If you listen to the soundtrack, Angelo Badalamenti, the composer, and I have the soundtrack. That's how I know, because
Yeah,
it's cool. It's just like this old.
he's a musician himself, so
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
a soundtrack. The
But
Return soundtrack
anyway,
was. Oh no, yeah. What were you gonna say? I apologize.
no, I was just that was part of the experience for me, because that I listened to the soundtrack and it evoked that mood, and it was just like it was just.
You're still the 7 Up guy or the Sprite guy. What is this? The Coke guy. Thank you. I'm still.
Oh, really?
I did.
Oh
Really?
man, I don't know what's going on. You know what? I
don't know. See,
I gotta get my headphones to see what
okay,
the
I'll
hell.
keep talking as you check.
Yeah, hold on. I'll be back.
So we're talking about Twin Peaks, right? So anyway, one of the fabulous things about oh, my babies are calling. I'm going to take a quick break to talk to my babies. Hey, babies, I'm on the thing. Michael Zinn just stepped out of the frame, but I'm say hello to everybody.
I know. I was just watching
you. You were watching me? You called me during my live thing? You wanted to be on the show? All right, she called me to be on the show. Hello, baby. How you doing? I love you. Well, I'm going to go back to doing my show, but thank you so much for calling in. The fabulous Logan Lane Snider, my daughter, everybody. Bye. Yay. I will, baby. Love you.
Okay, I love you. Bye.
Peace. So the second return, the second chapter of this thing 25 years later, one of its great features is couplings, duos, little partnerships, pairs of actors, and pairs of characters that just are great, that play off each other wonderful, and just every time you see them, you're like, oh, they're back. You're like, yay, because they're so well done. And really what's being well done is that he's really going for people who fit the polarity that he's trying to produce. And there's a, we talk about polarity all the time on the show, about so much of this world we're living in, why we're so divided. Well, we keep listening to the polarities, the human mind and the mind of God is polarized by virtue of all of us being very separate, and we are pulled to the right and we're pulled to the left, as opposed to speaking from the middle, from a place of consciousness of everybody and trying to regard everyone, which is what we should be doing. But instead we get polarized and we're on the left and the right. And you can learn a lot from the interactions of these left and right people. In the original show, the crazy hippie brother and the rich serious brother, they were polarities in different ways. Even better though, in the new season of The Return, the mafia guys are great. Belushi and the dude from Prison Break, who I loved, who's a real sick puppy in that one. Skinny guy and a little chubby guy, and they're brothers, and you buy them as brothers, and they're back and forth and their differences. And it's very subtle. He does a lot with a little. Lynch. He's very good at sort of confidently doing very little, knowing that you're going to take a lot from it and you're going to build your own world from the little bits that are done. I highly recommend Twin Peaks. It is so cool. But within the concept of Twin Peaks doing some very, very meta stuff, what they ultimately do is display a picture of the world that is very spiritual, where we're sometimes dealing with some high level weirdness, of sort of energetic elemental beings that are allegedly sometimes playing havoc on people. I mean, I've never been, well, that's not, I did have I've had a few times where I would say that actually I did feel as though I was possessed, not like figuratively, but I thought that I was dealing with a spirit very much.
Having an experience.
But I wasn't fighting it. I would say I did have that experience. You know what? I could tell this story. This is an interesting
How's my
story.
audio? Is it better? I unplugged it. I plugged it back in. No. Still,
I mean, it sounded better for a second, and then all of a sudden it went, "No, I'm still a robot" at the end.
I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, okay. I'll talk about this. So when I do shamanic things, sometimes I'll speak to the wind, and I mean, I've had some really interesting experiences like that. I mean, some that, you can call me crazy all you want, but were very unique and sort of quiet and simple. I remember communicating with I think some sort of earth elemental, and they kept appearing to me through the trees, and well, not the trees, but the plants that were all around me. I kept having my focus brought to certain places, and when I would just immediately see a face there, and I would feel a presence, like when you look at somebody and you're like, or like you feel somebody looking at you, and that was the whole thing. There was a lot of I feel somebody looking at me, and then I kept like turning and basically seeing plants that looked like they were human beings, like hanging out, looked like they were leaves waving to me and stuff, and
Wow.
like and the trees kept kind of moving when I wasn't paying attention to get my attention, and it was a very interesting experience, and I believe I was interacting with one of these energetic beings.
Cool.
Alternatively, when I got or I'll code this all to keep people hidden, but when I first started talking to my grandmother, which was the beginning of, my grandmother was passed away, and there was a lot of people in my family were having experiences with my grandmother. I've been told that I had these lights in my aura that were my master guides. I'd heard voices talking to me sometimes, but I hadn't taken it very seriously. And then, I also I couldn't differentiate between my inner thoughts and like it was somebody else. But I started to do that, and I started to get very good at knowing the difference between who I was and what my thoughts sounded like, for lack of a better word, because they don't really sound different. They all sound the
Mhm.
same. They kind of feel different. So what my thoughts felt like, and what my grandmother's thoughts felt like first, and then
Mhm.
my best friend Chris, what his thoughts felt like. I had these tattoos on my shoulders because this is Chris and this is my grandmother, because they
Wow.
told me that I had these white lights with me, and I don't know if I still have the same souls with me now or whatever, but I like to think I'm still, being, and I believe we all have these lights,
Mhm.
or all
Mhm.
depending.
Absolutely.
But this was, Chris was or I should say, Chris was my muse, and my grandmother was my protector. So once I'd been doing that for a little while, and like having that conversation, I remember going back home, and I decided at the time that I wanted to make a shrine for myself. And the whole idea behind a shrine in the first place, I know you know this, Michael, but for those of you who might not understand, is to essentially make a physical representation of the important things in your world. To have create a small world, a small representation of your world, and then put within that small world the things that matter to you. And within doing this, I felt like I kind of wanted to rearrange my room around the shrine. I used to rearrange my room all the time, so that's not like huge news for me. Like my ex-wife used to wake up on the other side of the room, and I would be like, "What happened?" I moved the bed. How? Like a leg at a time, just a leg at a time by myself in the dark,
It's so
um,
funny.
at like 4 in the morning.
While
Um,
she was sleeping.
yeah. So of course I did that, and I'm like going deep into the day. I just like gotten back from a trip, and I hadn't I smoke marijuana medicinally, occasionally, and spiritually is my favorite. And I had done this whole thing where I did a cleanse, and I hadn't smoked, and I was like, um, I'm gonna go rearrange this room. I'll be so tired, and then I'm gonna go like meditate, like really open up, and I'm gonna have a wonderful night. It's gonna be great. Like I needed a vacation for my vacation, or I remember, and I couldn't wait for it to all like work out. So I rearranged my room, make my shrine first, of course, but then rearrange everything around it. And the very last thing that I find before I finish is a pin. And to keep this as coded as I can, I'll say that the pin has an actor, or I should say, a musician friend's face on it. And this is a friend of my friend's, who, like, his best friend, who just passed away.
Hmm.
And I think, oh, what a coincidence that I have this pin and I would find it, and he just passed away. I'll add this to my shrine as
Mhm.
a blessing, to, him in the afterlife, or whatever. I just kind of
Uh,
think like, one more of my
Just
angel,
looking at
the people on the other side all
Right.
the shrine.
Right.
So I go off, and one of the things that I did when I was in New York at that time was I had hooked up with this kind of psychic guy who took liking to me, and kind of directed me a little bit with like the stones. And I gave some money, and he sent me an envelope full of different stones. And one of the stones he left me a note about was this huge big black tourmaline. I found black tourmaline to be a pretty powerful stone for those of you who work with stones. Some of the stones, I mean, you can legit feel the energy field coming off the stones, and others not so much. But black tourmaline is really powerful. And this guy was big. I mean, it was the size of a fist. And I also had like a piece of white selenite or something that was a nice size, whatever. But the black tourmaline was really. Oh, my audience right now.
Oh no, what's going on?
What's going on today?
I feel like I'm failing as a producer here.
You are failing as a
producer. And you know what? I couldn't my headphones because I can't really even hear. I don't think your audio is coming through the microphone. If you this.
It says this. Hold on.
Check.
Oh,
Check.
that's
Is that better?
much better.
Oh, maybe. Oh, it was on a switch thing.
Yeah.
It was on,
How is that?
Wait, man, my headphones are working all of a sudden. Maybe.
Oh,
Wow. See.
Hello?
Okay. Cool. This is even better. Maybe that's. But you're
There
still
you
a
go. How do
robot. But
I-
at least I'm fixed.
I'm still in a coat.
Yay. Thank you, everybody. I managed to fix it tonight. All right.
Man.
So anyway, I take this pen, I put it in the thing, and then I had gotten this package with all these stones. So I go and I'm like, I'm gonna go sit down. I'm gonna have a spiritual smoking experience. You know, like I used to have like and I still occasionally, but I had all sorts of different like little types of herbs that Merlin would be smoking, and I would think of myself as an old sage and sit and I would meditate. And this time I meditated with these stones, and I had a really powerful meditation. But at a certain point, I was kind of like, okay, like I'm cool. Like the whole point of this was that like I wanted to like do this cool thing and then have a nice time in my room. Everybody's asleep except for Cassidy. I'm gonna go inside and I'm gonna put on a movie with him. So I go inside, tell Cassidy, I'm like, Cassidy, you want to watch Mortal Kombat? And he says, is there blood? Do people die? And I go, yes. And he's like, yes. And I'm like, because that's what my son loves. So I know my son, and I'm like, all right, cool. So we go in and we sit down and I put on the movie, and my arm starts twitching. And mind you, I'm very lit up. When I go long times without smoking marijuana, I have a very, very strong connection to it, especially when I'm meditating and like doing those things. And I've had incredible like meditation experiences and things like that, under those circumstances. And so I was very connected, as I tend to be, but I was trying to just sort of have a nice time. And my arm is twitching, like my left arm's twitching and moving. And I'm like, I seem like a crazy person. And I'm like next to my son and I'm literally like twitching. And I start saying, stop that. Like, stop it. Stop doing that.
Right.
And the voice that returns is like, no. And I'm like, stop it. And he's like, I want to talk to you. And I'm like, no, I'm watching a movie with my son. And he's like, I don't care. And I'm like, I don't know what the hell's going on right now, but this isn't the right time. and dude's like, no, this is the right time. And because I've been talking to my grandmother and my friend, I have like two energy examples at least of like people I've talked to on the other side. Like, my grandmother who tended to have a, really kind of nurturing kind of vibe to her, but also a strong, encouraging kind of vibe. Like she'd curse at me sometimes, but like lovingly, come on, get the fuck up, something like that. And then my friend Chris, who was always very like, you got this, man, and we could do it, and like, like sort of inspiring, and just like a friend, like your best friend. And basically that's how it's been explained to me, that your muse is a friend, somebody who inspires you because they're encouraging, a relationship that was an encouraging relationship for you. And then your protector is a relationship that was a protective relationship for you, somebody who you felt guarded by, who you felt protected by.
Makes sense.
And so this voice, though, is neither of those things. It doesn't seem to care about my feelings. And that has not been the case with these voices that I've had, and he's at a certain point, there, it's like trying to communicate with me, and I'm like kind of getting the message, and I say something like, I forget what it was, but I tried to articulate what it was they were saying, and the voice goes, you suck at this. And I knew what he meant when he said I suck at this. He meant I was a shitty channel. I was bad at channeling. And I was sort of like, well, I haven't, like, in my mind, I'm like, well, I haven't done it very much, asshole. Sort of like what a dick, like this dude is, kind of thing. And he's just sort of like fucking with me.
Dick.
And like, he won't leave me alone. He's just like, lay on the floor and put a pillow over your head. And I'm like, I don't want to lay on the floor and put my son's gonna think I'm fucking crazy. And he's like, no, I swear, like, I'll put him to sleep. And I'm like, all right. So I lay on the floor. It's like close to the couch. I like try to snug in as like close to the couch as I can. It's like still very much the beginning of this movie, so that like I'm not super visible. And I guess I put a pillow over my face because as I was channeling him, I was kind of like twitching. He was very much like in my arm. I think I was still holding on to that black rock because I was like, this black rock is pretty dope. It was very powerful, like what I was feeling, like I was liking it. So because I remember holding it later, so I don't know if I ever put it down. But I lie down, and he starts talking to me, basically. But I mean, when they talk to me, it tends to be like information more than words. But sometimes the information like comes in waves. So I literally like finish, and I'm like, all right, so let me get this straight. You are insert dead rock star here. And you want me to tell my unnamed friend what my best friend Chris told me when I meditated a year ago, that he was with me making music, that he was with me creating music. And dude's like, yes. And like the whole time he's just like, yes. And I go, absolutely not. No way. This is the absolute craziest experience I've ever had in my life, and I'm not bringing a single other person into this experience. Oh, I lost Michael Zen. Well, I guess he'll be back, and hopefully with better audio this time. So I say, this is the craziest thing that's ever happened to me, and I'm not bringing another person in on this insanity. I can't do it. So he's back. So as I was saying to them, are you back? How do I put you back in the room? Do I have to hit the button for you?
Oh, here we go.
Oh, there we go. Hey now.
I don't see you.
You don't see me now?
No, I just see him. I see him on the wrong side.
It's a weird studio day. Anyway, something in the air. I think
I can hear you. So yeah, go ahead. Listen.
So anyway, he wants me to contact my friend, and I'm just like, no, absolutely not. And he is just sort of not like unrelenting. And I don't know what to do. So I wake up Patty, and I'm just like, I don't even think she's gonna believe what's going on. But I'm like, dude, I am possessed right now. I'm like, and I'm not like alarmed. I think I could get rid of it if I wanted to, but it's kind of hysterical. But at the same time, this is bizarre. And I like tell her like what's going on. And while I'm telling her what's going on, he is laughing through me. And I am uncontrollably laughing about my conversation with Patty while I'm having it because he thinks it's the funniest thing ever. I'm like, all right. So this, like, my arm's twitching, and he's just like, and I'm like, I'm not laughing. He's laughing, and I'm like, and I'm literally, I keep saying that to her, like, and I'm like telling the story, and then he's, and I'm like, that's not me. I'm not laughing. He's laughing. I'm like, I can maybe stop him, but he's laughing, and it's funny how this is happening. So I'm letting it happen, and so I am laughing like hysterical, and I don't know how he convinces me, but I begin a text to my friend. I start writing a text, and I write this, like, not super long, but like longish. Nah, not super long. Not really a super long text, just like a little paragraph. And I start reading it, and I'm like, what is this? There is absolutely no way in hell that I am sending this to Adam. I mean, to the person who I won't name. Besides that, first, I said, I'm not sending this. And I go, before I can think, actually, I should say, oh, I lost him again. What a weird day for all of the electrical equipment. See, this wasn't working before the show, too. And now it's working fine. So I don't know what's going on, but Michael will be back. Anyway, sorry, the technical difficulties are distracting me from my story. But before I can finish the thought of, like, this is the craziest thing I've ever sent to anybody in my life. There's no way in hell I'm going to send this. Electricity shoots through my finger, and I hit send. And it's totally the dude. Just boom, send. And I'm like, oh, fuck. Because I was just panicking how I'm not going to send this, and it gets sent. And then I have to get on the phone and have this conversation with my friend, which, people tend to be resistant when the dead speak to them. So often the messages that come from the dead are things that people want to argue. Everything that people wants to hear is a little bit less so what's said. More often, what's being said, and I think really the consistent message that I hear from loved ones on the other side. So if you want to know what your loved ones on the other side really think, it's probably this. It's that they are with you, and they really want you to know that and connect to them like it is going out of style, to connect with them for reals. Basically, the message from my friend, my friend's friend, was that on some level, I'm with you, but you don't really know I'm with you. You don't really believe it. You hope that maybe I'm with you, but you're not sure, and you're not behaving as though if you want to talk to me, you can. And every single time you think, I want to talk to you, but I can't, you're defeating the purpose. But so often, if you go to somebody and you tell them that their loved ones tell you that, like, they're with you and they want you to know they're with you, the loved one always says the same thing. They go, oh, I know they're with me. No, that's not what they mean. They don't mean, oh, I'm with you. They mean, I'm with you. Your grandmother, your grandfather, your mother, your father, the people who you hold dear, if they made an impact in your life, a meaningful thing, and you miss them, guaranteed, those are your guides. Those are the people who you have the strongest intellectual and emotional connection with. Who else could it be but the people that you care about so deeply? And they want you to know, as I have now come to know, even though, now maybe I think maybe it might not be Chris anymore, but at the time I really needed to know it was Chris. I needed to know it was Chris. I needed to know it was my grandma, because my grandma made me feel better, and Chris made me feel encouraged. Chris was the guy who when I set out to make music, I spent the first 2 years of my musical career making music with. He was my encouragement. He was the light telling me that what I was doing was good and that I wasn't crazy. When Chris died, I felt crazy again. I felt like, I don't know, maybe I'm not good at this, and I was just sort of like trying to bluster on. But losing Chris, losing the light, losing the person who was keeping me up was really a major deal for me. And so many other people go through that same thing. And I got to tell you, maybe I thought Chris was with me on some level at some point, but when I had my deep meditation that I had when I had my Kundalini awakening, when I felt him there and he came to me and he told me that I told him that I wished he was there making music with me, because I was making such beautiful music that you guys still haven't heard. And Chris came upon me and he said, I am here making music with you. And I knew that to be true from that moment on. And whenever I talk to the deceased, they almost always want me to communicate to their loved ones. Can you mute on your side, Michael, like until like you talk, because you've got like it's really loud over there. But they always just want me to communicate the same thing, but that deep meaning of I am deeply with you. Everywhere you go, I am at your side. And it's okay to have me in your mind when you're feeling crushed, to say it's okay and people love you and things are good. It's okay to have me in your mind when you're feeling uninspired, to turn to and have a conversation with your friend like you did yesterday. It's okay to believe that they're not gone. It's okay to believe that they're here and they're with us, and that our connection is not lost, and that things are okay. And and that is really the message that I got from Chris, from my dead level, and then the message that got passed on to me as I occasionally have had those little. That was the most severe possession situation that I ever had. I've never had its equal since then. I have smaller conversations and things where I feel the presence, and and I'll have a conversation with whatever person they may be. Often just if somebody dead gets mentioned when I'm around, I'll feel their presence, and and sometimes be led to say something. But it was a really interesting experience opening to these things, and as I opened to these things, it opened me up to the concept of not just ghosts, but elementals and spiritual energy. One of the scariest concepts that I never wanted to face was the idea of the skinwalker. One of the early things that I looked up, I think I've talked about in our shows before, was Bigfoot. And the first thing that I came across before Bigfoot, when I was looking up like Bigfoot, I remember I looked up like a top 10 Native American animals or creatures. Bigfoot was second. And I was looking it up because I was looking for Bigfoot. My idea was, if the Native Americans didn't know anything about Bigfoot, then Bigfoot wasn't real. But if they did, then there was a chance that Bigfoot was real. The very first thing on this list was called a skinwalker. And it was one of the most terrifying freaking things that I could imagine at the time. And I legit just went like, nah, I don't believe in that. Like, nope. Like, don't even want to think about that. Because it was really dark. And like, I don't even want to like, well, I mean, essentially some sort of version of an elemental being. But it was sort of like what happens of the wicked that men do, and like, when real terrible evil is done, that it lives on in a certain form and it becomes these other things, like that kind of stuff. And I didn't believe in that at all. This was like me first opening up to the possibility that there was a lot more going on, but in general, I'm a positive guy. I'd like to not focus on negative things. But as I really started to explore larger, I was just like, oh, wow, this is all just that same thing, and this same experience that I'm having, this same experience of, sometimes, I mean, and granted, people can fly off the rails when they're talking to God, because it's very easy to become yourself. It's a tricky game of trying to communicate with these things. That's why not every psychic or channeler of the dead is a good one. And why I might not feel comfortable ever trying to do that for money or something for somebody, because I don't know, like I get things, I question them like a mother effer. Sometimes it's pretty hard to question, other times it's easy to question.
Right.
You know, but it's all semblance of this similar idea of this pervasive energy, you know, and just even the idea of spirits, you know, alcohol as spirits. It's called that because it's lowering or changing our vibration in whatever way that makes us open and susceptible to certain
certain
spirits.
frequency. Yeah.
And
How's
certain
my audio
energies.
now? By the way, is it?
It's still no good. I don't
Still
know what
no
the
good, good.
what the deal is.
I get my headphones for next time, and
It's still no good.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But I mean,
You
no,
sound
you're all good.
great though. By the way, with that mic.
Hey, thank you. Well, mine wasn't working at the beginning of the show, and then
Right.
went on. Julie, my girlfriend, popped in. My lovely girlfriend. I love you, Julie.
What's up,
she
Julie?
popped in, and she said that the sound was all messed up in her OSHA class today. Something going on. Something in the air messing with the frequency
right?
that we're speaking about. Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, it's really cool to see. David Lynch is a transcendental Buddhist. Believes in transcendental meditation, and there's so many spiritual parallels within the show, and I mean, really worth checking out. I think we spoke about Twin Peaks briefly, maybe like a month ago. I was talking about one of those stories, one little scene in it that was really spiritual and very cool. But I recommend the whole thing. I mean, really, and like recommend it and dissect it if you have any real interest in storytelling or spirituality or film or TV. There's a lot of reasons that you might find it very fascinating. And like, yeah, the soundtrack to The Return, I'm not a huge fan of, but I do like the soundtrack to the I would love to have that score from the set, just because they repeat so much of the score in the show. It's just so funny, all of the stingers they use. You call it like a stinger. There's other words for it too. When you like play something to represent a certain energy of like, now we're gonna change the scene, and then it changes, you know, but in this case, like when characters would come on scene or certain type of thing would be happening, the same music would play every time, which was always very funny, especially as you get to know the meta aspects of what he was doing and why he was doing everything as kind of ham-handedly. It's funny, he's so subtle, and then on the other hand he's really ham-handed, but he's ham-handed because what he's doing is pretty like you're not gonna necessarily figure it out anyway.
The mess
it's gonna take a little work.
Ninja Kitty says, what state do you live in? What is Spinnaker Ranch? Ninja Kitty.
That's probably Skinwalker Ranch is probably what you
no. Well, when you were talking about skinwalkers,
Spinnaker Ranch, I know Skinwalker Ranch.
Skinwalkers are freaky and dangerous, but now she's talking about Spinnaker Ranch. So I don't know what it is. Oh, you're right. Concept. She said you're right. She did say Skinwalker Ranch.
Yeah. So, you know, as a concept, I mean, and there are other concepts like this as well. But I mean, as we've talked about before, and I mean, there's possibility for these things. You know, don't dwell on these subjects. They're fun. You know, think of them as sort of ancillary subjects. This is what I'm about to talk about are very severe cases of disturbed energy. You know, really disturbed energy. And if you're here with us, you're not that disturbed energy, so you don't have to fret over this. But essentially, since we're this big field of energy, and we're all these ideas, those who die under the right circumstances essentially become a very powerful, broken mind of the universe, mind of God. And through their disarray and misunderstanding of their experience, distortions of all kinds, I think, can take place. You know, and when you see something like, you know, multiple personalities, you know, as is like explored in Split, and you know, some other things. You know, people's eye colors are changing when they have these multiple personalities sometimes.
Right.
What is it that we've got all of these souls that are like hanging out in one body or whatever? You know, like there's obviously energy things going on that are a little bit more difficult to explain than
Right.
we're happy to admit. And I love
So,
now when I
Gabe,
see these concepts explored within the Gabe. I bet Gabe's a Twin Peaks fan. I love when I see these concepts explored inside film and TV and stuff
right,
like
right.
that. Do you
Stories.
have any pieces of spiritual television from your upbringing or now that are worth exploration before we close?
That's an interesting question. I've been having a little bit of a debate too about television, but I there was a in my life where I disconnected myself from television because of sitcoms. Actually, specific, it was because of sitcoms. And I mean, I grew up on Happy Days, Mork and Mindy, and like all of these things that were like a part of life. But later, when I got older, I started to feel like I was insulted. The intelligence of the writing and the jokes were so like lowest common denominator. You know what I mean? Like, and there's a part of that that's brilliant. You know what I mean? What's that? Love and Marriage, Love and Marriage.
Married with Children.
Yeah, that show was brilliant. And it's like misery. You know what I mean? Like it's depiction of misery, but I don't know. I started to feel insulted with sitcoms and the laugh track, so I disconnected myself from TV, and my spiritual side was later. So I think kind of what you're doing with Twin Peaks, where you're going back watching it. Well, you're watching it for the first time, but you're experiencing now with this spiritual base. You know what I mean? You have that. You know, so it'd be interesting to go back and experience some things like that. I think I don't have one specific though to answer your question, but now I want one.
Yeah, it's been the case for me that my spirituality did not come along until much later, and so much of my informative years was filled with like watching so much movies and so many things. And there's been plenty of cases where I've come back around to something as an adult and been like, oh, why?
Exactly. And listen, I gotta apologize. Julia's confirming what I already knew. The audio sounds like I'm a spirit from the blodge.
Your audio
I don't know what I
sounds
said.
like you're a bad guy.
Yeah,
She's a bad man.
I love you all. You all know what else to say.
Who's the guy with like he's from like he's in Back to the Future
Headroom.
or whatever.
Max
Headroom. Max Headroom. That's what you sound like. Max Headroom. Trying to remember. Good old Max Headroom.
Yeah. No. Anyway.
Well,
anyway,
we are excited about life here on the live stream of consciousness. We're excited about spirituality. I highly recommend Twin Peaks. Do the whole shebang, and prepare. It's a little slow, but it's engaging, and the good parts are worth it, even if you're not into kind of more artsy filmmaking. But I loved it, and it's really just one of my new favorites, and highly recommend it. And if you do watch it and you want to chat with somebody about it, ooh, holla, because I love Twin Peaks. Anyway, we're so excited to get into this new year of live stream of consciousness. We're gonna be putting together our new calendar and announcing it, putting it up pretty soon, and we're gonna get our show gonna be promoted on Twitch in the coming months, and we're all really excited about that over here. So we love you. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Michael, for talking a little less tonight because your audio is weird. And thank you guys for listening to me chat about other things while my mom's a little under the weather. Please, those who are willing to say a little prayer for her, I appreciate it. We'll
get her on. So we're looking forward to it.
Yeah, we will, and I'll try to do something. But on Sunday, I'm doing a little acoustic performance out in San Diego. I'll post something on my my Instagram if anybody wants to try to come down and do it. But I am really excited about that, and I'll talk about it with you next week. Maybe I'll get a clip to you, Michael.
You got a question?
Anyway, oh Jesse, I have a question. This is weird. I had a dream 2 nights ago that was very lucid, and it was about my ex-wife and I getting back together. I haven't thought of her much out of nowhere. That's interesting. I had a very interesting dream about my ex. I mean, I don't know if yours crosses a line that mine didn't. Mine was just it was very simple, but for a minute I thought that maybe it had some sort of meaning like that, but actually in reality it was me like closing the door. It was my ex was standing there, and I saw that like her skirt had like risen up, or like it magically rose up, and like when she like leaned over or something, and I just sort of like quietly like went over and I just like pulled it back down, and I think I went, your skirt, you're like your butt is showing, or like something like that, like whisper, like discreetly, like a, you know, like you've got something on your face.
Oh, yeah.
You've got something on your face, like something like that. And I just stepped away. So, and when I went to go look up like the meanings of the dream thing, it had said that dreams like that with with the spouse and similar were often actually just more about closure of the relationship and you know, sort of release of the situation in more ways. But it's worth looking up in the dream thing. I always say, my brother Shane got me into this a long time ago. He used to just like Google the basic parameters of his dream, and like amazing things would come his way, you know, information and stuff. But yeah, you'll live stream it. Julie's gonna live stream it.
Gonna live stream it. Awesome.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks Gabriel for tuning in. Thanks everybody. Appreciate having you here. As always, we love our loyal and wonderful audience. It feels like I've been here with all you guys for months and months now. And you know, the one thing I will say is, hey, look, we love doing this, and we're going to keep up doing this and keep showing up and you know, bringing on interesting guests and people who have interesting stories. But we need help. We need help making this into a thing. And I so appreciate how much you guys love joining us every week. And I know some of you guys have dragged in boyfriends and husbands and people who listen and pay attention. Yeah, without you know, without even having any fanfare. But we really appreciate all of that, all that grassroots. You know, everybody who's here. You know, if you know somebody who might appreciate the show, we try to be the right people for everybody, you know, and a reasonable neutral party that everybody can understand. And hopefully through this reasonable approach, we can open people up to the understanding that there's a lot of different realities going on this planet. And the more we can try to level ourselves to the playing fields of others, and you know, and be open to the free will of those around us, and the respecting of ourselves and others, that you know, the world just gets better and better and better from there. So so please bring people in, you know, bring in new disciples to the live stream of consciousness. You know, we're gonna keep on doing this and having a good time. I'm sorry that my sister and my mother have embarrassed me. No, they both got sick and had good excuses both times. But I look forward to maybe getting them in the future, and we look forward to rolling out a whole bunch of new guests and a bunch of new things to do on
next week.
Consciousness. Yeah, I should have said that big. We look forward to a bunch of new guests and more new things on the live stream of consciousness.
Peace. We'll see you next week.